Your teams.
Hell! It is Barner! It is Barner! And he's gone!
The Beavers are the national champions!
Brandon, a three-pointer out front. Hit it! Yes, he did!
His take.
Here's what I think.
Matt Bagley.
The Astros wasted a lot of money on public relations. I don't know how much they spent on their staff. I don't know who they hired, but I'm assuming they hired somebody, and whoever it is, that somebody didn't do their jobs. That was a horrible press conference today.
Talking local sports.
The owner of the team was asked, did you cheat? Because they wanted him to say, yes, we cheated. Yes, what we did is bad. Here's an apology. That's the common sense approach. That's what anyone in the world would have told them to say, but they wouldn't say it. He says, we broke the rules, but that wasn't cheating. This would be like a student cheating on a test, and you know all the answers beforehand, and you get caught, and you say, yeah, I broke the rules, but I wasn't cheating. In this instance, how can you break the rules and not cheat?
Southern Oregon Sports Talk with Matt Bagley. Presented by Medford BMW on 96.1 580 The Game.
Hey everybody, Southern Oregon Sports Talk, and a very eventful Tuesday. I spent the morning prepping and getting ready and packing my car, and tomorrow I'm going to be on the road all day. I've got South Medford Girls Hoops at the state tournament tomorrow night. More on that as we get deeper into the show. I also have a ton of guests tonight. Brendan Slaughter, managing editor of Beaver's Edge. Really rare guest. Big fish for me. He's going to join me at 5. Jake Vermonde talking sports on the local perspective at 5:30. And Kevin Primerano, Rogue Valley Timbers. He's the executive director of the Rogue Valley Timbers. It's a Tuesday, and that means I'm going to kick off my Tuesday the same way I always do, Timbers Tuesday, with Kevin Primerano, who's on the phone line right now, plus some, sports talk coming up a little bit later. But, Kevin, I think this is a really interesting time of the year for you. You are the coach of a pretty prestigious women's soccer club here in the Rogue Valley. You also are the executive director of the Rogue Valley Timbers. And a couple weeks back at a Rogue Valley Timbers fundraiser, I saw you guys raise a lot of money for kinder soccer, kindergartners getting a chance to play the beautiful game. And now we see that in fruition. You have the registration for kinder soccer going on right now. Tell me about that.
Yeah, kinder soccer is the foundation of our program, and we run that over at Jefferson Elementary School on Saturdays, and it's a great program just to get kids involved, and oftentimes their first connection to any kind of organized sports. And when I say organized, I mean very loosely organized. But we try to expose them to the beautiful game, and we try to get them excited about playing. And we run, we try very consciously to not overcommit parents and overcommit kids at a young age. So that program runs for 4 weeks in the fall and 4 weeks in the spring, and it's just a little sampler, a little taste.
What's the best thing that you think soccer and youth sports in general can do for a person that young?
I think that's when kids are starting just to discover what they like to do. And, it's so easy to just want to take your kid and kind of sit them off to the side and maybe in their, just kind of keep them sheltered. But getting them out, getting them to run around, giving them a little bit of freedom, that perhaps they haven't had prior, unless they're on the playground or something like that. Giving a little bit of freedom, giving the opportunity to make some decisions on the field. It's really exciting. And I look back on my own kids and, their time in that program and watching where they've grown from then till now, and, knowing that the foundation started right there.
Yeah. Kevin Primerano, my guest. He's the executive director of the Rogue Valley Timbers, and you can learn more about that kinder soccer program by visiting rvsoccer.com or checking out the Rogue Valley Timbers Facebook page. It's just Rogue Valley Timbers. Kevin, also, I want to kind of play the hypothetical here, take a trip down the time machine. When you were growing up and you were discovering a love for soccer, was there anything out there like this for you?
No, I mean, our kids are so lucky and so fortunate that they have so many opportunities and so many programs. You know, for me, it just so happened that I found the game in third grade. I don't think there's anything like that in kindergarten where I grew up. But the other place the kids are lucky is, I mean, we had to search for it. Like if you found the game on TV, you were probably like hijacking some some radio signal in the air and trying to get through all the snow to see it. And that's on every day, and kids can see some just great women's soccer, men's soccer, international soccer. There's so many opportunities and so many venues and outlets for them to really fall in love with the game.
It's funny you mentioned that, Kevin. A little veer in a different direction with you real quick. I think I've told you before about how I became a soccer fan. I'm not a very athletic person, so I wasn't great as a player growing up. But in my teenage years, I got hooked watching UEFA, the European soccer tournament one summer. And then I noticed, hey, all these matches on MLS are on TV all the time, and the Timbers games are all on TV, and it blows me away thinking about, just in my lifetime, how much exposure we have. If we want it, we can watch it now.
It's amazing. I mean, I can't even venture to guess how many games are on a day between Champions League, between Premier League, between Major League Soccer. I mean, there's 15 or 20 games on television throughout the week, and you know it's great. It's a great opportunity for kids to see the game. You know, I encourage all the kids that are playing to watch the game, because you know, if we don't have context about how the game is supposed to be played,
right,
it's really, really difficult to teach them tactically. So when they do watch the game, you find that they learn much quicker, that they have a better understanding of what we're trying to do and what we're trying to teach them.
Kevin, I'm sorry, Kevin. I owe you one.
That's okay.
What were you saying before I so rudely interrupted you?
Oh, I was just saying, you know, we've got to watch the game. Hopefully the kids are taking advantage of those opportunities they have.
Kevin Primerano, my guest, executive director of the Rogue Valley Timbers. Also, want to pick your brain on club soccer, Kevin, because I know you're a really accomplished club soccer coach, and I would assume this time of the year, with fall high school soccer in the rearview mirror and high school basketball just wrapping up in a couple of weeks, is this kind of when your teams start taking that leap and really having some really cool learning experiences?
Yeah, well, our high school age club teams, they're just finishing up their season over this coming weekend. Their regular season. We've got a couple of teams heading down to a college showcase in Las Vegas the first weekend of spring break, and you know, we come back, and that first weekend in April we start our state tournament for our upper level teams, and then our local competitive league starts then as well. So actually, so for those high school teams, they're just kind of ending one portion of their club year.
That's amazing.
Right,
that's amazing to think about, just how rigorous that is.
Yeah, seems like just yesterday we started, and we have game number 10 on Saturday. Again, maybe it's on Sunday. I can't even remember at this point.
Want to go full circle with you. Any of your players, did they get exposure through kinder soccer?
Yeah, actually at Beer Benevolence, I had my team there, and I asked them to raise their hand if they started in our kinder soccer program. I think there were maybe 10 or 11 out of the 18 that were there that played in our kinder soccer. I mean, 17 of the 18 played our recreational soccer program. But I think it was 10 or 11 of them started in kinder soccer.
That's amazing to think about. You know, there's this idea, I think it transcends sport, but if you get more reps at something, you're going to be better. It's just crazy to think about with kindergartners, and you just laid the case earlier. It's not super regimented. You're not going to be no boot camp or nothing. It's all about having fun, but yet you see that idea of reps helping you grow and really see the proof behind it.
Yeah, the most successful kinder soccer coaches are the ones that get all of their kids to sign up for first grade soccer. So, and I feel the same way all through our rec program. We judge our recreational coaches on retention.
Kevin Primorano is the executive director of the Rogue Valley Timbers. One last thing with you, Kevin. I noticed that you're already getting ready for Rogue Memorial Challenge. What are you doing at that part of the process?
Operationally, we're pretty sound. We've been doing it for quite a while now. But just going down our checklists and making sure that we're staying out in front of anything that needs to be ordered, vendors that need to be hired, medals that need to be ordered, working with the different hotels to make sure that our referees have places to stay, working with our referee assigner to make sure we have referees, and then wrapping up our sponsorship sales. Now we're just watching the teams register and just making sure that when May rolls around, we're ready to rock and roll, and we can put on another great event.
Do you already have a lot of teams registered?
Yeah, we have probably 15 or 20 teams registered right now. We'll get the bulk of our teams between now and mid-April. I wish they'd register a little sooner. It would certainly make me feel a little bit better. But historically, we have 90% of our teams register from the last week of March until the third week of April.
Wow.
So we should start seeing that influx hit any minute.
Yeah, Rogue Memorial Challenge, the planning and the process underway for one of our big events annually here in the Rogue Valley Timbers, humongous Memorial Day weekend tournament, Rogue Memorial Challenge. Kevin Primorano is the executive director of the Rogue Valley Timbers. He joins me every Tuesday. Reminder, we're talking kinder soccer this week. You can sign up for that through, I believe, the 28th of March over on rvsoccer.com. Kevin, is there anything else that you want to promote this week?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head. Right now, it's kinder soccer, kinder soccer, kinder soccer. So if you've got a kid out there that wants to play, get on over and sign up.
All right. That's from Kevin himself. Kevin, always love having you on, man. I really appreciate your time.
Thanks, Matt. We'll talk to you next week.
That was Kevin Primorano from the Rogue Valley Timbers. Next, I want to talk about spring practices. I know some of you roll your eyes at that. We got so much time till college football comes back. But I think there's an important step in between a developing team and a championship team. And I think that step is spring ball. I want to walk you through the why next on Southern Oregon Sports Talk, presented by Medford BMW on 96.1, 580, The Game.
Most Oregon adults, 73%, agree they would want someone to intervene if they personally had a problem with gambling. If you're concerned about your own or someone else's gambling, opgr.org has free confidential resources. Resources like self-evaluation, tips on how to start the conversation with a loved one, and where to find help locally. Help with problem gambling is available. Learn more at opgr.org.
And Jackson County Public Health.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her.
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Keep a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve. It's now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
This is The Herd with Colin Cowherd.
Zion's different. Now, New Orleans is a football town, but Zion's a phenom. Luka's just a great player. Zion's a phenom. Zion's a number 1 pick. Zion played at Duke. Zion's under the microscope. Luka is going to end up with 30,000 points. I'm sure he'll get a championship. He'll be in the playoffs. But it'll be a different life than Zion.
Colin Cowherd.
Weekdays at noon on 96.1, 580 The Game.
You took the first step and quit smoking, but even former smokers may still be at risk for lung cancer. That's why SaveByTheScan.org wants you to know about a new low-dose CT scan that can detect lung cancer early. It takes only 60 seconds and could save your life. You took the first step, now take the next. Visit SaveByTheScan.org for a simple quiz to see if you're eligible and talk to your doctor about screening. SaveByTheScan.org is brought to you by the American Lung Association's Lung Force Initiative and the Ad Council.
It's the best word in sports. Playoff.
Coleman, all 5'4", squatting low and still finding somebody. Coley for three, in the air, swish!
Follow your South Medford Panthers through the state basketball playoffs.
Grant's pass, whip it across the arc, deflected away, stolen by South. Guess who? Coleman, flying to the net, layup, foul, and one.
Wednesday night on 99.5, 880 KCMX.
Southern Oregon Sports Talk with Matt Bagley. Talking local sports. Weekdays 4 to 6 p.m. on 96.1 580 The Game.
Southern Oregon Sports Talk. Hey, everybody. Matt Bagley here with you. Just had Kevin Primerano from the Rogue Valley Timbers. If you missed that, you can listen back to it. Just check out our podcast. Search for 96.1/580 The Game in any podcast app. That's 96.1/580 The Game. Any podcast app. I use Apple because I got an iPhone. My fiance has an Android. She uses Google Podcasts. You can find it there. Stitcher, Spotify, TuneIn, anywhere. 96.1/580 The Game. That's what you got to type into any search bar in any podcast app. A bunch of guests tonight. Kevin is just the first of many. I will share a segment of this week's Scoop Duck podcast, Scoop Duck and Hi-Fi. That's coming up in a couple of minutes. Brendan Slaughter. Now, this is really special. Brendan Slaughter, I used to have him on every week. Beaver's Edge managing editor and Beaver beat writer, Brendan Slaughter. Used to have him on every week. Brendan is one of the few people in this business who is busier than I am. So I don't get Brendan on as much as I used to. I will have Brendan at 5. I'm really looking forward to it. Beaver fan, I think you should be excited about it. There is a lot to cover there. Are you going to survive in Vegas? There is a puncher's chance. There is an outside chance you make the tournament and you sting an arch rival or two in the process. Brendan Slaughter is going to break it down. And we're also going to talk women's hoops. I think they already punched their ticket. We won't find out for sure till Selection Monday, but I feel pretty confident saying that. And spring ball, which is the focus of the start of this segment. Then Jake Bermonde is going to join me at 5:30, and I'll wrap the show. 5:45, I'm signing off, and we got the West Coast Conference Men's Basketball Championship game. But let's go back to spring ball, which I've mentioned a few times now. Beaver fan might be rolling their eyes right now when Matt Bagley is telling them, Jonathan Smith's really got to do a lot. Or Duck fan, you might be rolling your eyes when I say this is a really pivotal stretch. Because how much can your team really learn in the spring, right? Especially now with coronavirus. You might only have 5 practices. Harvard, the whole Ivy League, they just canceled their spring practices. You know that's going to be the first of many. Then it'll be the MAC. Then it'll be the Mountain West. Then it's going to be the Pac-12. How valuable can these practices really be? That's a question on people's minds. I think spring ball can make or break you. And I will use last year's Pac-12 champs as my example. Oregon do not win the Pac-12 title without Micah Pittman. True freshman wide receiver, came in, did what he was asked to do, earned the trust of his quarterback, and time after time, 3rd and long, he bailed him out. Need a big play? He bailed him out. Micah Pittman came up huge for the Ducks last year, and I don't believe Micah Pittman gets it done without spring ball. He came in early, he got the reps, he put that work in, and he was ahead of the curve. And that's huge for these young guys. Imagine being a college freshman. I remember when I went to Oregon Tech, 18 years old, thought I knew everything in the world. I mean, I still think I know a lot, but I really was confident then. I really believed I know everything. I've got everything figured out. And within 2 weeks on campus, I knew nothing at all. Didn't know how to buy groceries. Barely knew how to do laundry. Didn't know how to cook. Couldn't clean up after myself at all because I'm 18 years old. I've never been alone. Now you factor in, I got to talk to girls. I got to study for classes. Nobody's going to call my parents and warn them if I skip school, right? I've got to be on top of this stuff on my own. I got to be responsible on my own. Now add in the responsibilities of an athlete. Here's a 400-page playbook that's way more intimidating than any class you're going to take on top of the 4 classes or 5 classes that you're taking every term. It's amazing that these guys don't flunk out of their program, that they don't just up and quit and say, I can't do this. Clearly they do it, and I think the reason they can do it, especially a guy like Micah Pittman, is spring ball. You enroll early. You don't have the rush. You don't have that crush in September that every other freshman has because you're getting that out of the way right now. And you don't have that exhaustion, that just intimidation over not knowing the playbook because you're getting that out of the way now. Spring ball can change the trajectory for these young freshmen. And if you're a program like Oregon State, Jonathan Smith, say what you will about his recruiting. The numbers aren't great. He's getting a lot of transfers. He's getting a lot of guys that are coming to Corvallis that have the talent. 4-star quarterback this year. A couple 4-star defenders last year. Guys that have the talent, but you don't have time to groom them. You don't have time for them to goof around year one. Figure out, where am I going to get my laundry done? Where am I going to buy my groceries? How am I going to cook my groceries? Who am I going to hang out with? All those basic questions that need to be answered when a young person goes to college. You don't have time for that at Oregon State. Not if you're Jonathan Smith getting all these junior transfers. You need these guys to come in right away and know exactly what they're doing. And you give them a buffer right now. You give them a window right now where they can come to school early, they can get all that stuff out of the way, and then September rolls around, and we need you to be on your A game because we need you to help us win the Pac-12. All those guys are going to be ready. You hope. I think spring ball is huge, especially for a team like Oregon State. If they get momentum this spring, they can win a Pac-12 title. I'm saying it right now. I believe in the Beavers, but it starts now. You screw up, guys get hurt, guys don't do what they need to do, study the playbook, study the film, work hard in the weight room, you're lost. Get all those things done, and you have a shot to shock the world. 541-630-4792. I want your thoughts on that. Want to hear from you tonight. I have a ton of guests, and partly because it's the time of the year where I don't like to pepper you with takes. I don't have football to talk about ad nauseum. I don't have the NBA playoffs. I don't have the Stanley Cup. I don't have any professional baseball of note. Right? I'm not going to be breaking down last night's Yankee game because it's still spring training. But I can talk about big picture. I can look ahead. And I can get you interviews from some really interesting people in the Valley. So we just had Kevin Primorano from the Rogue Valley Timbers. I will have a segment of the podcast I tape every week, Scoop, Duck, and Hi-Fi. That's coming up in about 10 minutes. I have Brendan Slaughter, the managing editor of BeaversEdge.com, and I have Jake Bermonde, sales guy Jake. I don't have a show Thursday because I'll be up at the state tournament. So Jake is going to join me today. And I'll spend a minute on that too. Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, no show unless the worst happens. My assumption is that tomorrow night, when I go broadcast South Medford girls basketball in the Oregon high school basketball state quarterfinal, 8:15 tip over on our sister station, News Media 99.5 FM, 880 AM, KCMX. I assume that South Medford will win, and their next game is Friday night. So I'm assuming I will be stuck in Portland for about 5 days, much to my chagrin. You can tell I'm actually loving every moment of that. If they lose, I have to drive back to Medford Thursday morning. I'll be back here Thursday night. I will have a show with you. And then Friday, I will have another show with you. But I'm assuming I'll be stuck in Portland for a couple of days because this is the best team I've ever covered, and I really believe that they can go as far as they want to. So no show Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. Definitely no show Wednesday. There's just no way. Not going to happen. I will be driving over a bridge stuck in traffic at 4 o'clock on Wednesday. Also want to talk NFL and NBA. Well, I got a couple more minutes with you here. Free agency. Charlie Weiss was on ESPN radio yesterday morning, and I was asleep, so I missed it in the moment. But I've heard the paraphrase and the analysis sort of chewed on by everybody in sports radio because Weiss was asked about one of his former pupils, Tom Brady. And everybody wants to know where Tom Brady's going to go. And Charlie Weiss said, nobody has any clue, right? I'm here to say nobody knows. That was Charlie Weiss yesterday on the radio. It got me thinking, what's really happening? Let's take Charlie Weiss at face value. Let's assume that he's right and that the Patriots aren't angling here and Brady's side isn't angling here and nobody's tampering. Nobody's working ahead. That's the assumption. Why are all these rumors coming out about where Tom Brady wants to go? Well, clearly, this is as close as they can get to tampering. This is Brady's side saying the Raiders want us and they'll pay us this much. If you filter that, if you figure out what's really going on, assume the Raiders aren't tampering with Tom Brady. But this is Brady's side telling New England, this is what you got to match. And when the rumor gets floated out that Brady is courted by the Raiders and the Chargers and the Bucks, this is Brady's side saying, hey, New England, you're going to have to throw in a few years to this deal. You're going to have to give me a pretty big contract. I want to play till I'm 45, or I'll go play somewhere else. These are threats to New England. This is why I think that Brady is set to leave New England. If I had to venture, I would say Bill Belichick, guy who has taken your franchise to 9 Super Bowls, has the say here to ignore Tom Brady. And I mean, part of me hates to say it because it's crazy to imagine them not being together, but has he ever paid someone past their prime in his career? Has he ever made the decision as a coach to wait it out and give somebody the ropes and give them a bunch of money that he doesn't think they deserve? No. He's never operated that way. Why do we think he's going to operate differently? Why do we think he's going to change his entire career philosophy for Tom Brady? He's not. And Brady knows that. When you've worked with him for 2 decades, I think Brady knows that better than anybody. He knows that his clock is ticking. He knows that Belichick isn't inclined to keep him. And so he's giving the Patriots every opportunity. He doesn't want them to say, hey, we didn't know the contract was going to be this much. Hey, we didn't know those other teams were going to want him that badly. Brady is putting out feelers. Brady is sending out threats because he knows the only chance he has of staying in New England is if Robert Kraft, the owner of the Patriots, sees all of this stuff happening. If Robert Kraft can swoop in and tell Belichick we're keeping Brady, then Brady has a shot. But he doesn't want any surprises. He doesn't want to work too sudden. You got to float this stuff out there. You've got to give them time to hire the bean counters to figure out how do we make this contract work. Otherwise, the Patriots won't make it work. Where is Brady going to go? That was what Charlie Weiss talked about today. He doesn't know. Nobody knows. But I think I've got a good idea. He's going to leave New England. Where does he go? Who does he sign with? That's a conversation for another day. And I'll address that a little bit later with sales guy Jake Bermonde when he joins me at 5:30. Till then, I got a lot of ducks for you. Scoop Duck and Hi-Fi. It's a podcast I tape every week with Justin Hopkins, and I like to share a sample of that. Not the whole pod, just a part of it. Because I really think you're missing out if you're not listening to it. 2 great interviews there. I'm going to share one of them with Jacob Archer. He's writing about the Oregon football team this spring, going to practice, covering the team. He did a radio hit with me last week right here on this station, and he did an interview on our podcast today, and he dropped a lot of knowledge. Jacob Archer, Ducks writer, covering spring practice, teaching us about Mario Cristobal's Pac-12 championship team. That's next, right here. Southern Oregon Sports Talk, presented by Medford BMW on 96.1 580, The Game.
We all know that great pizza starts with great dough, right? At Abby's, our dough is made fresh every day. Plus, Abby's employees go through a dough certification program. Yep, that's a thing. It's Abby's way of ensuring that every pizza we make follows the same strict standards we created over 50 years ago. I guess that's what separates the Simply Great from legendary. We've been making, rolling, and serving our award-winning dough since 1964. It's fresh, never frozen, and it's literally the foundation of Abby's success. Our dough could even make a pear and gorgonzola pizza taste good. But don't worry, we won't do that. So, how about if you drop in with your family and friends for a giant triple topper pizza? It has premium pepperoni, Canadian bacon, and ground beef, all piled edge to edge at a special price. And do you know what else makes Abby's legendary? We were named one of Oregon's top 100 businesses to work for. We're honored. Abby's, a legendary pizza tradition.
Most of my family, they never graduated high school or even let alone go to college, so I'm trying to break that barrier. My daughter, Brooklyn, was also a motivation for me to go back to school. Every day after work, went straight to school, studied hard, and it paid off.
At age 26, Kareem finished his high school diploma.
I could not have done it alone. I feel like if I didn't have anyone to push me, I wouldn't even bother to do it. I got one milestone down the drain, and now I got to work on the next. I see the future is really bright for me. I feel like it doesn't matter the age, as long as you go back and get it done. The high school diploma is just added to the confidence, and now I feel unstoppable.
No one gets a diploma alone. You have more support than you realize. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Here's that song again. Here's that song again. For the 100th time today. Here's that song again. It's gonna be stuck in your head all day. Here's that song again. It will make you cray, cray.
You love your kids enough to watch that TV show a bajillion times. Love them enough to make sure they're in the right car seat for their age and size. Show them you love them. Keep them safe. Visit nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Opinions? Zach Gelb's got them.
There's a big basketball game each and every year at Pine Forest Camp in the Poconos. Leon Rose was in the crowd. I did not start the second half, even though I started the first half. But long story short, we don't win. After the game, Leon Rose came up to me and said, Zach, your coach made the worst bleeping decision he could ever make, taking you out of the game. This is very telling if you're a Knicks fan, because this is the brilliant scouting mind of Leon Rose, and maybe the Knicks are doing the right thing here.
Weeknights at 6 on 96.1 580, The Game.
Southern Oregon Sports Talk with Matt Bagley. Talking local sports. Weekdays 4 to 6 p.m. on 96.1 580, The Game.
So I've got the podcast that I tape every week with Justin Hopkins, Scoop Duck and High Five. We cover the Ducks, football, basketball, and spring sports. And I have two really fun interviews on the podcast. Scoop Duck and High Five. Spoke with Chance Hudson, who is the father of a current Duck, Keon Ware Hudson, and the father of a future Duck, a Duck commit, Kyron Hudson. I loved that interview, but it's 26 minutes long. So I didn't want to just like tip the hand and give you the whole podcast right here on the radio. Plus, we kind of got into the weeds on that one. A lot of recruiting talk, a lot of talk about Mario Cristobal and his personality and all this stuff that I don't know if it's very wide. I don't know if I want to throw that out there to the world unless you're a diehard Duck fan. But this, I really think, fits for the radio. Jacob Archer was our other guest today. He was at Ducks practice. Spring practices going on right now for the Pac-12 champion football team. And I think this is a really neat follow-up interview to the conversation I had with Jacob on this station last week. What can we learn about Oregon a week into spring ball? Jacob Archer, he joined us today. If you like this interview, listen to the full podcast, Scoop Duck and Hi-Fi. Jacob Archer joining us right now. He's Jacob Archer from Scoop Duck, and he joins us right now, Scoop Duck and Hi-Fi. Jacob, I had you on my radio show in Southern Oregon last week. It was right after the Ducks' first practice of the spring, and we were both giddy, but I could hear the excitement in your voice. Just, you loved what you saw. You were optimistic. Now about a week in, Jacob, you've watched, 4 Ducks spring practices so far? How do you feel about this team?
You know, it's been exciting starting off, getting back into spring ball and stuff. And you can definitely tell it's spring ball, People are still getting used to things with the drills, and it's kind of easier contact and stuff like that. But even from practice 1 to now, today was the first day with shells. So, they were in pads. There was a lot more stuff we couldn't film and stuff and take pictures of. They're going through cadences with the O-line and with the quarterbacks and stuff like that. And it's starting to feel even more real in week 2 than it was in week 1, with just the quarterbacks and stuff like that. And, I mean, there's just so much energy around this team, even in week 2 and stuff. The energy in the building and with the players and stuff, and players are excited before practice and they're dancing around and they're having a good time, yet they're still focused. It's not that they're just there for a good time. They're having fun, but they're working hard. And that's a huge testament to Cristobal and the staff of just kind of building that culture of, we're going to have fun doing this, but we're still going to work hard and we're going to outwork people and we're going to get better as a team. So it's been really exciting to watch just over the last couple of weeks.
I'm glad you mentioned the culture there, because that's something that I think a lot of fans, we kind of take that element for granted. You can't measure it. You don't know until you kind of see everybody around each other, practice or games or pregame or whatever. And with a lot of departing seniors that had been there for 4 or 5 years, I think, there was some concern there. As far as that goes, and I understand it's only practice 4, have you just kind of noted maybe a couple guys that seem to be maybe stepping up in regards to, hey, they're leaders? You could tell when they yell, everybody stops what they're doing and listens. Is there a couple guys that maybe just kind of have started to really embrace the leadership role from your view?
Yeah, I mean, totally. Obviously, last year, you lose guys like Herbert, you lose guys on the O-line, you lose Troy Dye, and those guys were huge leaders on this team, obviously. So it was something I was really interested to see kind of who was going to step up and take over that role, per se. Obviously, it's not just one guy, but kind of which guys were going to. And, I mean, that's why I think it was so great to see, Diamador Lenore and Thomas Graham come back, for example, this year. These veteran, multi-year starters that they know what it takes, and they were there maybe when it wasn't so great, and kind of like they don't want to take anything for granted, and that's the difference between those guys, in their senior year versus the guys that were freshmen last year and stuff. That's the only culture they've been around is winning the Rose Bowl, winning the Pac-12 and stuff. So you have to really show the way to them of, hey, we are going to have to work hard for this every single year. It's never going to be given. And stuff like that. So I think especially Diamador Lenore and Thomas Graham have really kind of stepped up to me. And then even just Tyler Shuck. I mean, man, they were doing some drills today. The first team was going through stuff, and he went over to the side, and the second and third team were running drills. And guys were coming up to him, and there were some receivers that were asking him about the plays and stuff, and he was breaking it down. And it was really kind of cool to see him step up like that. And he's directing guys, and he's breaking down coverages and plays to guys on the sideline in between drills. When most of the guys are just trying to catch their breath, he's still helping other guys. And that's kind of that maybe that quiet leader, kind of how Herbert was, where he might not be the most vocal guy out there, but he is a leader, and he's earning everyone's respect out there.
I know it's early, Jacob, but 4 practices in, do you think you've seen enough from Shuck? Is he the guy?
Yeah, I mean, he's done everything right so far, even before this year, just the last couple of years and stuff from his pressers and practices. And you only ever hear good things about him, putting in the hours, putting in the time, studying the film, getting the playbook down. And then obviously having a guy like to learn under is just, that's something not many quarterbacks in college can say. They learned under a player like that. And you're starting to see it now on the field, and I mean, he is just crisp with the football. Every pass so far I've seen, when I seriously say I don't know if I've seen a particularly bad pass, I haven't from him yet. Where some of the other quarterbacks, you see him miss an out route, you see him miss a post every once in a while in practice, and he is just on point. And it's not only just that he's accurate, he has kind of a really good natural arm strength about him where, a lot of guys can throw the ball 40 yards, say, downfield. But if they're, putting everything into it and they're dipping their shoulder and you can tell they're forcing it and it takes a little bit to get there, where someone like Shuck, he kind of just can flick his wrist and that ball is just sailing over guys. And it's even today in practice, I wrote about it in the practice report, and it ended up not being a completion, but it was more on the receiver. Devin Williams is out right. I mean, he threw a perfect ball to Williams at about 35, maybe 40 yards downfield, and it was a beautiful play. Williams ended up catching it because Michael Wright kind of made a really good play, and Williams lost it a little bit. But it's stuff like that where you're like, man, once those guys keep working together and you can see that chemistry, it's going to be unstoppable. And everything Shuck's done has just been great so far this offseason.
Good. I think that's probably the news Oregon fans are most interested. I mean, you talk about QB1, most important position on the field. It's going to be a huge topic through this spring and into fall. Another huge topic, and we're not going to get any answers on practice number 4, and I'm not sure that we'll get any answers through the spring, but just from what you've seen from Coach Moorhead, his interactions, maybe what he's been doing, his demeanor, I don't expect you to give us a report, hey, the offense is totally different. They're not having that in them. They're not going to show you in the first 20 minutes of practice. I get that. But just from kind of what you've gleaned, seeing him and the things they've been doing, how is he maybe a little bit different than what Coach Arroyo's done the last couple of years that you've observed?
Moorhead has been around for a while. He has lots of experience calling plays at, different levels and everything. Lots of experiences, lots of different schools and stuff. And he has a little bit of that almost calm, cool, and collectedness to him where he's not necessarily the most energetic guy on the field, but that's just like a football guy right there. And I hate using that term, but it's so true. Just someone that you can tell is such a high football IQ, and the way you see him coaching guys and with footwork and technique and things like that, and just it's definitely different than how Arroyo coached him up last year and stuff. And it'll be you know, like I said, I've only been to a couple practices, so it's been hard to see that necessarily in full effect. But I kind of think as we keep going along in the spring and we see a little bit more, and I can see a little bit more at practice and kind of how things are changing. Because, yeah, like you said, you know, they ran a couple one-on-one drills with the ones today, but it wasn't anything of significance, pretty basic plays and stuff like that. But, I mean, I even thought it was interesting on one of the scrimmage plays, Shuck took off running today. And that was such a, like, oh, whoa. Like, last year in practice, for example, I had never really seen Herbert take off running during any practice and stuff. And it was kind of interesting to see something like that. You're like, man, that even might just be more head in his ear kind of telling him those things. Because, I mean, there was the quote last week about how he wants to run the quarterback more and stuff like that. And, you know, he had great success when he was at Penn State with Trace McSorley running the ball and stuff like that. We were even starting to see within, you know, 2 weeks, just real minor tweaks and minimal changes to the offense, but they're already kind of recognizable.
You're talking about ways that this offense has stood out to you, Jacob, and players that have stood out to you. 4 practices, just about a week, maybe a week and a half in. Is there anything you want to see from the Ducks in the practices ahead?
Yeah, you know, I think there's still a few big question marks on the team. Obviously, with offensive line, going to have a lot of new faces on the O-line. And there's a lot of really talented big bodies that are ready to step up, but it's going to be really interesting to kind of see who steps up. You know, there's a lot of open position battles, and there's guys we expect to be starters day one, but they still have to go earn it. You know, guys like we think Stephen Jones should be on, you know, guys like that people think should be a day one starter, but you know it's going to be about the competition. And Mario, I'm sure, probably doesn't have anyone except for Sewell penciled in on the offensive line as of now. I mean, and it's going to be really fun to watch because there's 8, 9, 10 guys that are potential Pac-12 starters and really good linemen that are on this team competing. And then obviously with the, you know, if George Moore comes back, because he's trying to fight for a 6th year of eligibility and how that would kind of shake things up on the offensive line. So that's kind of the one position I'm really interested in watching, but I'm also the most confident in, if that makes sense, just with Cristobal and how he's recruited and how well he's done at pumping out these offensive linemen. Even though there's a bunch of unknowns, you know it's still going to be a good product. And then I'm also really interested to see how the linebacker situation plays out this year. Obviously with Dye leaving and, you know, Isaac Slade had a great year last year, but there's still a lot of snaps to be had, and it'll be interesting to see how some of these really talented freshmen stack up versus some of these guys that have been in the program for a year or two. You know, I'm excited to see Adrian Jackson and kind of his progress now being in the program for a few years. And, you know, people thought he might be a breakout player last year, but it didn't quite work out. And now there's these 5-star recruits that are coming in that are wanting to take a bunch of snaps, and how someone like that kind of responds and steps up. I'm really excited to see how the linebacker situation plays out this year.
Once again, very limited, 4 practices. I know you guys get 20 minutes. You know, I know not a lot of actual football, you know, goes on in that window, but just maybe from the eyeball test and being around there, maybe looking at some of these guys and seeing them from year to year, anybody jumping out to you maybe in practice that you've seen make a play, or just, hey, look, man, that guy's bigger, looks a little quicker. I mean, anybody kind of jump off the page to you? Looks like Bennett Williams was with the ones today in your practice report from what you saw. You know, anybody kind of making just at least a bit of an impression in that window for you?
Yeah, I mean, Bennett Williams is a great one. I mean, he's already working with the ones after week 2 of camp, which is not something I expected. But, you know, he's looked great out there and stuff. I mean, there's a few other guys. I think Johnny Johnson's looked really, really good. And, you know, it's a guy that obviously has been around for a few years now, but he continues to get better, and I think he could be a really, really solid piece in this receiver core. And then also Michael Pittman. I mean, that dude is just so fun to watch on the field. He flies around. He's already made some crazy catches and whatnot, and he looks really great. And, I mean, same as Devin Williams. I'm not just trying to talk about the receivers, but the receivers have been really fun to watch. And, you know, it'll be interesting to see those guys that have worked with Shuck for a year or worked with the twos when Shuck was with the twos, and guys like that, and kind of you see their chemistry's already developed and stuff like that, especially with Pittman, who was working with Shuck last year before the season, working with the twos and stuff, and you can already kind of see their chemistry. So it's been really fun to watch. And then, I mean, on the defensive side of the ball, you know, Mykael Wright is just an absolute freak at corner. He's so fluid and fast, and His technique is great, and he looks ready to step up even more than last year. But obviously it's such a loaded defensive back group with, Graham and Lenore and McKinley and all those other guys that are just such high-level players, and it'll be interesting to kind of see how that shapes up. But he really, really good plays in some drills already this year.
Well, a lot of that's certainly exciting. I know receiver, I would say after quarterback, offensive line and receiver are probably 1B and 1C for what people are following. So that's good stuff. Jacob, we appreciate your time. We know you're a student. You got things to do, and you did a great practice report this morning. We appreciate that. Let's get you back to school and, of course, get that degree. But thank you for your time, and keep grinding, man. We appreciate all your work.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Always appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, buddy.
That was Jacob Archer alongside ScoopDuck.com owner Justin Hopkins and yours truly, Scoop Duck and Hi-Fi for the week. That's Scoop Duck and Hi-Fi. If you like that interview, listen to the full podcast. Just search for Scoop Duck and Hi-Fi on any podcast app. Enough ducks for hour one. I got Brendan Slaughter, managing editor, Beaver's Edge, kicking off hour two in a couple of minutes. And Jake Bermonde is going to help me hopefully wrap the week. I say that because tomorrow I'm not going to have a show. And if the South Medford girls do what I hope they do tomorrow night, again, I'm covering Panther basketball, 99.5 FM, 880 AM, KCMX. Coverage starts super late, but it's up in Portland, 8:15 p.m. If they win, their next game at the state tournament is Friday night. And if they win that, then they play Saturday in the state final. I'm hoping that I stay up in Portland for a few days. I won't have a show Wednesday. Hopefully won't have a show Thursday or Friday because I'll be on the road. If that happens, I got to wrap up the week. I got to end the week on a high note. So that means Jake Bermonde is going to join me, and we'll have some fun. Talk all things NFL, all things March Madness, and more. Wrapping up hour one, I got one idea for you. Over the weekend, this question was tossed out all across Twitter, all across social media, because Draymond Green reached out to Charles Barkley and said, hey, I'm better than you. Look at the rings, right? This idea that Draymond, who is always a little cocky, overconfident, thinks he's better because he has rings and Barkley doesn't. And I got to thinking, we're really in the same situation right now with Giannis versus LeBron. The Lakers beat the Bucks this weekend, and everybody was stunned about it, but maybe we shouldn't be. LeBron's got more rings. LeBron thinks he's the better guy because he's won titles. Giannis hasn't. Anyway, there's a couple ideas off of that. I don't know if Barkley could ever beat Draymond or vice versa because it's a different era of basketball. But I can say this about Giannis. We saw this weekend he can beat LeBron, but he needs room to grow. And we'll talk about that next hour right here. First, I'm going to get Brendan Slaughter, managing editor of BeaversEdge.com. That's Brendan Slaughter, managing editor, Beaver's Edge, Oregon State Beaver beat writer, Brendan Slaughter, joining me next. Beaver football, it's spring ball. How do they grow? How do they compete for a Pac-12 title? Beaver basketball, can they pull off a miracle in Vegas? And the Oregon State ladies, all up ahead.
Our Phoenix store has changed names so many times, I think it has an identity crisis. Outlet Center, the OC, Garrison's Home and Outlet. I think we even called it Steve at one point. I don't know. Anyway, after years of searching, we finally found the perfect name. Introducing Garrison's Express. Find it today, buy it today, and take it with you today. No more waiting for your new furniture to be ordered, and no more name changes either. Get it now at Garrison's Express, just off the Phoenix exit and the I-5. Garrisons.com, we got your back.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. 30% of Americans who are planning home improvements of $5,000 or more will pay for those renovations with a high-interest credit card. That may not be a great idea. A better idea may be to take cash out of your home with a Quicken Loans 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.99%. APR 4.23%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rates subject to change. Pay 2% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states and NMLS number 3030.
Do you have knee pain, an ankle injury, or chronic back pain? At the BioSkin store in downtown Medford, we carry a wide assortment of braces and other quality products for knee pain, back pain, foot and ankle injuries, and many other conditions. In Southern Oregon, we're lucky to be able to be active outside year-round, so don't miss out on doing what you love because of an injury or joint pain. The right brace will help you enjoy all your favorite activities. At BioSkin, all of our braces are made from breathable, lightweight, and hypoallergenic materials to keep you comfortable no matter what you're doing. We have braces designed specifically for common problems including ankle sprains, meniscus damage, ligament tears, osteoarthritis, tendonitis, plantar fasciitis, and more. So if you're living with pain or an injury, even if you've tried another brace already, come visit the BioSkin store so we can help you find a solution. Open Monday through Saturday at 135 West Main in Medford. For more information, visit bioskin.com or call 541-203-9231. Again, that's 541-203-9231.
Listen, my life changed because someone was there to get me to use drugs. No one can understand. Whether or not they've struggled with addiction themselves, people seem to think that having someone who will listen is gonna help make it better. I'm realizing that I need help.
I'm listening.
I need help. I'm realizing that I think that having someone who will listen is going to help make it better. Whether or not they've struggled with addiction themselves, people seem to understand. No one can get me to use drugs. My life changed because someone was there to listen.
1 in 7 Americans will struggle with addiction during their lifetime. Want to know how you can help? Go to heretolisten.com for tips and tools to help turn addiction around. A public service announcement brought to you by the Ad Council.
What if Tom Brady goes back to the team that he has absolutely loved since birth, the San Francisco 49ers, and Jimmy G goes back to the Patriots? Everybody knows that Bill Belichick wanted Jimmy G. Is Tom Brady going to be the 49ers quarterback next year and Jimmy G going to be the New England Patriots quarterback next year? People are saying it's possible, and I am all the way here for it.
The Pat McAfee Show.
Mornings at 7 on The Game.
I was in the hospital with my son for 18 months. When he got injured, I knew I had to be strong.
I just remember rushing into his room and giving him a big hug and letting him know I was there.
These veterans and families are just a few of the heroes we serve at Homes for Our Troops. We build specially adapted custom homes with features like wheelchair access and automatic door openers that allow them to focus on their recovery and family.
This house is freedom. It's hope. It's a new beginning.
Visit hfotusa.org.
For the Beavers.
Stevie races front court, shoots for three for the win. He hits it! The Beavers win! He hits it!
KTMT 580 AM and K241CA 96.1 FM Ashland.
Sports Flag.
I'm Jay Berman. This report is sponsored by Google Assistant. Don't miss a second of the NCAA tournament. Starting Selection Sunday, you can catch every game live with Westwood One on any Google Assistant-enabled speaker or smart display, like your Google Nest Mini or Nest Hub Max. All right, we'll start in the NBA. Busy night. We do have 2 games in progress. Celtics and Pacers in a good one from Indianapolis. They're at the half, and the Celtics lead at 59-50. Jason Tatum has 20 for Boston. Knicks and Wizards. Knicks on a 24-7 second quarter run. They're up a dozen, 55-43. They still have 5 minutes to play in the second quarter. Bobby Portis has 16 for New York. Magic and Grizzlies, Mavericks and Spurs, Cavaliers and Bulls, Timberwolves and Rockets all get underway in a matter of moments. All right, college hoops, West Coast Conference Tournament Final. Number 2, Gonzaga at 30-2. Big favorites tonight as they go up against St. Mary's. That'll start at the top of next hour. Meanwhile, the Ivy League canceled its men's and women's basketball conference tournaments Tuesday because of concerns about the spread of coronavirus. The Ivy League instead will award its automatic NCAA tournament bids to the regular season champions, the Princeton women and Yale men. Meanwhile, the Big West Conference has announced that the league's basketball tournaments will be played without spectators as a precaution. Same goes for the MAC Conference tournament. I'm Jay Berman.
Hey, it's Tiki Barber. Be sure to listen to CBS Sports Radio on the go. Download the radio.com app and favorite CBS Sports Radio today.
Hear archives on the game's Facebook page. 96.1/580 The Game.
Southern Oregon Sports Talk with Matt Bagley. Talking local sports. Weekdays 4 to 6 p.m. on 96.1 580 The Game.
45 minutes, then I'll get you the West Coast Conference Championship team. Till then, I get to sit in the best seat of the house. Got my corner studio, got live radio, Southern Oregon Sports Talk. Jake Bramante is going to join me in 30 minutes. We'll talk NFL free agency, March Madness, and more. But right now, my emphasis is Oregon State. I laid the case earlier. I think the Beaver spring practices can make or break a Pac-12 conference title next fall. And I didn't even get started on the Herculean task that the men's basketball team has in Vegas this week. But I get to take a swing at both of those topics with my guest on the phone line right now. Brendan Slaughter is the managing editor of BeaversEdge.com, and he's with me right now. Brendan, I want to start by walking through your itinerary the last couple weeks. I think you're the busiest guy on the planet. You just got back from Vegas with the ladies, right?
Yeah, no, it's definitely been a whirlwind of a couple weeks. You know, we call this one of the busiest times, you know, for those that are covering college sports, because you've got spring football kicking off, you've got men's basketball, you've got women's basketball, and you've got baseball. And you've got, 2022 recruiting, 2023 recruiting you're looking at. So there's always a lot of stuff going on, but this particular area is really busy right now. And as you mentioned, just got back yesterday from being down in Vegas for the women's basketball team. Beavers obviously dropped an early game to Stanford after beating Washington State, but I'm still feeling good about them heading into the tournament as well. And, yeah, it's a good time, but busy's always good, my friend. Love it.
Yeah, that women's team, I feel good about them too. I think they're going to get in. Pac-12 women's hoops, obviously awesome year after year. Men's side is a different story, Brendan. I'm looking at 4 games and 4 nights as the requirement for the Beavers. Do you think that's the requirement, or is there another way they can get into the big dance?
It's interesting because the Oregon State men's basketball, this team this year, it really is a head scratcher. You look at it and you look at what they've done, who they've beaten, and who they've lost to, the games that they've won, and you're like, wow, they won that game. Then games where you have the extreme opposite effect. And with that in mind, I believe that heading into this tournament, anything can happen. And again, obviously, Oregon State has to start off, against Utah tomorrow at noon, it'll be the first game of the Pac-12 tournament. But the Beavers have the ability to beat anybody in the conference. They've beaten Oregon, they've beaten Colorado, they've beaten Arizona State. They've proven they have those capabilities of being able to get those big wins. But then they'd follow it up and not be able to put consistent performances together. So, as you mentioned, 4 games in 4 days, you're asking Oregon State to play 4 games, their best 4 games of the year, and then be able to not have any kind of a fall-up there, given that, it's a one-and-done situation. With that all being said, I think the bracket shakes out very favorably for the Beavers in the sense that I think that they will beat Utah. And then that sets up a very intriguing third round of the Civil War. Obviously, Oregon State handled Oregon pretty well in Corvallis, and the Ducks did the opposite in Eugene. So on a neutral court, Trace Tinkle, Peyton Pritchard, that's must-watch television if those two get back to that position. And, after that, you kind of just see what happens. But the first 2 games for that team, they're not unwinnable by any means, and that still gives hope. I think they're 1 or 2 wins away from being in a position to host NIT games at Gill Coliseum, which I think would still be a big accomplishment given where the season was even just a few weeks ago on life support.
I think you just raised a lot of eyebrows there, Brendan. He's Brendan Slaughter, managing editor for BeaversEdge.com, and the way I describe his job, I always say Brendan runs a really great site detailing Oregon State sports. He also gets to write on the beat of Oregon State sports. When you tell me that Oregon State has 2 really favorable matchups, I agree with you on Utah, but I think Beaver fan and Duck fan alike is curious about the quarterfinal. Let's assume Oregon State beats Utah. Specifically, what do you like about that Civil War rematch?
Well, I mean, again, as a media member from afar, I mean, you can't not sit back and admire what Coach Altman has done down there in Eugene year after year. That group, they perform, they consistently end up near the top of the conference. Here they are winning the conference this year and actually, overtaking a couple other teams that were riding high. There were, quite a bit of mixing and jumbling for those final top 4 spots. But the reason I think it's an intriguing matchup is that, as I mentioned, when Oregon State played Oregon at home in Corvallis, granted Oregon was down 2 of their better players, as they had a couple guys that were out of that game for various situations. But before that, Oregon State, I believe, had won 3 out of 4 in the Civil War series, headed into the most recent Eugene matchup where the Beavers just didn't play very well. So I think Wayne Tinkle and his group, I think they just match up really well with Oregon. With that being said, though, however, Oregon is a heck of a team, and they're going to be sitting on a bye after Oregon State is, having to probably expend quite a bit of energy beating Utah on Wednesday. So I think it goes hand in hand with how the Beavers play against Utah, what their momentum is like, and what kind of a vibe they bring into that game, because it's kind of similar to me to where I saw on the women's side, where Oregon State, first game, just demolished Washington State. I mean, not even close. And then you go play Stanford, who was waiting for the Beavers. They had that extra day of bye and extra day of scout. And, you got to figure Dan Altman and company right now, they're really probably keen on thinking the Beavers are the favorite in that game. And I think that's a fair bet. And getting ready for round 3, which, I mean, for all of our listeners, both yours and the people that cover Oregon State and Oregon, another matchup between the Ducks and Beavers. That's exciting. And you got to love how the brackets shook out in that regard.
Yeah, always a fun battle when those 2 rivals get together. Oregon State tomorrow at 11:30. That's when pregame coverage starts, when the Beavs battle Utah in Vegas. If they win, they'll play Thursday at 11:30 right here on the game, facing those Oregon Ducks, top seed in the tournament. And you can read about that coverage at BeaversEdge.com. Brendan, now I want to shift gears and talk a little football with you, because the last time I typed your site into my internet browser, I saw you guys have already loaded up on a bunch of spring football coverage. Are you excited about what you're seeing in Corvallis right now?
Oh, I mean, absolutely. I mean, that's what we pride ourselves on at Beaver's Edge, is being, right there and giving you the most exclusive access to what's going on at practices and what's going on right in between the trenches. And, that's what we like to bring. And, yeah, I appreciate you checking that out, of course. And heading into the spring, it's interesting because you mentioned at the top of the show, Matt, that the spring is really where you can kind of develop and start to see, that big picture stuff start to work its way in for this upcoming year. And as I've kind of started to watch the team, today was only day 4. First open day of practice with full pads was today, so we're still kind of getting into it. And there's one more open practice this week before the Beavers then take a break for finals and spring break and pick up the second half in April. But I've been impressed. The Beavers don't look like a team that's building necessarily anymore. They don't look like a team that's trying to figure out what the culture's like under Jonathan Smith. And for the first time that I've been on the beat in many years, as I've been on this beat since 2014 now, there's just a lot of there's just a sense of calmness and, being able to be centered into something and not have, any worry of change or transition or all the crazy things that the football team has been through basically since Mike Riley left, in the sense of instability, change, no consistency within coaching or whatever. And now that you're in year 3 of Jonathan Smith era, you're seeing Smith kept his whole staff. They have just unveiled a huge weight room renovation. It's going to be a game changer for the football program. The team itself, there's finally depth at all crucial positions. You're talking, instead of a year or two ago, where the Beavers had 4 or 5 guys total on the defensive line to be able to do rotations, now they have double or triple that. They finally have some depth in the secondary to be able to match up with bigger guys. They have some more offensive line depth. We see a bigger and more broader depth of talent at quarterback. I mean, from top to bottom, the Beavers just look like a team that no longer resembles one that's going to win 4 or 5 games a year.
Yeah. I said at the start of the show, 4 o'clock hour, I thought if you have a good spring and you build that momentum, you have a Pac-12 title dark horse. Is that a realistic thing to say about this team?
It's early. I get why from the outside perspective. Defensively, I'm very intrigued to see how good Oregon State can be this year because they just bring back a lot of talent. They bring back a ton of talent. They have a lot of depth. And defensively, I've kind of said if things break with where they've got transfer-wise, they can get their guys that were out last year out healthy, particularly at outside linebacker, this could be a defense that nobody wants to face this year. And that kind of where I can see could maybe lead into some of that, maybe being a little higher in the north or even dark horse, as you mentioned, just because there's a lot of experience. My one hesitation is offensively, you've got to prove you can win without Isaiah Hodgins and Jake Luton, which the Beavers don't have a ton of experience doing. Obviously, you have Jamar Jefferson back, a strong, stable Tristan Gebbia and a couple other guys in the fold at quarterback, and then a lot of really talented names at receiver, but not Isaiah Hodgins level. And then some offensive line situation where I think really needs to settle in before fall. There's more questions on the offense, and that's why I'm hesitating a little bit. But make no mistake, this is the best I've felt about a team heading into a season since I've been on the beat, by far.
Wow. There's the statement of the night from Brendan Slaughter, BeaversEdge.com, managing editor. Real quick, Brendan, before I let you go, you mentioned, hey, this was the 4th practice, and it was the first open practice that the Beavers have had this spring. That's a word that I think means something different to every team. Like if I go out to a local high school, open practice means I get the whole practice. Ducks open practice, on the other hand, they gave their guy 20 minutes today. What's open practice mean for you?
So basically, it kind of shifts a little bit, but right now the Beavers are on a bit of a Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday schedule, and it'll shift when April starts and they get in after the spring term kicks off. But for now, it's been open media availability on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then they have their closed practices on Saturdays. When it's open for us, we get about the first 20 minutes of practice to be able to film, get video. You can check out those practice highlights at BeaversEdge.com. And then we get the rest of practice to watch and be able to observe and take notes, right? All that kind of stuff before interviews. And then when practices are closed, obviously no access, just back at it the next week. So, again, given, it's spring, and given that a lot of teams during the season don't give a ton of access, including Oregon State. During the season, you don't watch practice. They don't allow it. So spring and fall camp are extremely valuable for, sites like Edge because we get that exclusive look at practice. We're always boots on the ground, and, people want to know what's going on at practice to be able to stay in the loop. And it's exciting times in Corvallis right now.
Yeah, Brendan Slaughter said it earlier. It's the best Beaver football team he's covered since he started working this beat when he was still a student in college. Brendan Slaughter, my guest. He's now moved on to some bigger and better things since those collegiate days in Corvallis. Managing editor of BeaversEdge.com, and with it, a role on the Beaver beat in all sports. Brendan, as always, I really appreciate your time, and especially considering you are really tough to get on the show because I think you're the only person in this business who's busier than me. So I am super glad I got 10 minutes with you today.
No, I appreciate that, Matt. I know you do a good job down there. I love listening to the show and appreciate you having me on as always. It's a great time and should be an exciting couple days for the Beavers and Ducks in the tournament. Absolutely.
Right. Vegas looms, and the Beavers hoping that they can make quite the stay in Sin City. We'll talk about that next segment, and then Jake Bermonde joins me at 5:30. Also, NFL, some college football coaching news that hit the wire today, and a Blazers story for you. It's a lost season, but are they making things worse? I'll explain next. This is Southern Oregon Sports Talk, presented by Medford BMW on 96.1 580 The Game.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. 30% of Americans who are planning home improvements of $5,000 or more will pay for those renovations with a high-interest credit card. That may not be a great idea. A better idea may be to take cash out of your home with a Quicken Loans 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.99%. APR 4.23%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rates subject to change. Pay 2% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. And NMLS number 3030.
Ranger Station, Ranger speaking.
Hi. I'd like to report a bear hug.
Okay.
Well, before I left my campsite, I was putting out my fire, and out of nowhere, Smokey Bear showed up and hugged me?
So you drowned the fire, you stirred it, drowned it again, and felt that it was cold?
Uh-huh.
Oh, yeah. He likes it when people correctly put out their campfires. He's pretty big on wildfire prevention. He's just letting you know you did good with a hug. He's a hugger.
I just got a bear hug from Smokey Bear. Status update.
All right, I'm going to let you go now. I've got a lot of ranger stuff to do. There are many ways to start a fire, but one sure way to put it out. Learn how you can do your part at SmokeyBear.com.
Only you can prevent wildfires.
Sponsored by the U.S. Forest Service Ad Council and your state forester.
After Hours with Amy Lawrence.
Even Alex Rodriguez is now ripping the Astros for showing no remorse. Took him a while to show remorse himself after he went on his apology tour, which he did. Says he served the longest suspension in baseball history. I deserved it. Someone who can speak firsthand that the Astros deserve whatever comes their way because they have not shown any type of remorse.
11 at night, overnight on 96.1 580 The Game.
The journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. At Children International, we know that the journey to end poverty for good begins first with a child. It starts with their first checkup, lesson, opportunity, job. That journey takes commitment from people like you and me to end poverty for good. Learn more at children.org.
Make it a great day with DA.
Tom Brady's more name than he is ability now.
Well, people don't want to admit this. You and I are on the same page here. They want to affix every excuse to why Brady had a down year, to his skill position guys, to the offensive line. Nobody wants to say the mean thing, which is Brady is a great player, was one of the greatest of all time, perhaps the greatest of all time, and he's not that anymore. People do not want to be mean about this.
He's cooked.
DA, mornings 3 to 7 on 96.1 580 The Game.
Southern Oregon Sports Talk with Matt Bagley. Talking local sports. Weekdays 4 to 6 p.m. on 96.1 580 The Game.
It is such a busy week. Southern Oregon Sports Talk presented by Medford BMW. I will have just about 10, 12 minutes with you here. And then Jake Bermonde is going to join me. And hopefully it will wrap the week. Reason why, number one, we have the West Coast Conference basketball championship game tonight. That coverage starts at 5:45. Tip at 6. So I'll be off the air 5:45. Tomorrow, yours truly gets out of here early. I'm not playing hooky. I'm going to Portland, and I'm covering the biggest game of the year in local high school basketball. South Medford Panther girls in the Oregon 6A girls basketball state tournament quarterfinal tomorrow night. I can't wait. coverage over on our sister station, News Media 99.5 FM, 880 AM, KCMX. I'll be on the air at 7:45 unless the previous game runs really, really, really long. Now it's going to run really, really, really long. That's a jinx. I just jinxed myself. But I'm looking forward to a really fun Wednesday. And if South wins, then they stay in the tournament. Their next game is Friday afternoon, and I'll be up in Portland. Doesn't make any sense to drive back for one day, do the show, drive back. Doesn't make any sense. So I'm probably going to be stuck in Portland for about 5 days. My fiance is thrilled. My in-laws are thrilled. I know my work is not thrilled. They want me here, but we're going to make do. We're going to have a lot of fun. 99.5 FM, 880 AM, broadcasting every South Medford basketball game this week at the state tournament, as long as they win. Every winner's bracket game at the state tournament. Want to talk about a couple of topics with you, as I've got a few more minutes solo on the show, and then Jake Bermonde is going to join me. The NFLPA still hasn't finalized their vote on the new collective bargaining agreement. Some of you are falling asleep as I say this, but I think there's a really interesting takeaway from this process right now. Something that can teach us about pro football, not just in 2020, but maybe an obstacle that the league has to overcome over the next decade. There was an annual meeting held today. Get all the NFL players invited. Get them all in the same town, all in the same place, and all talk through this CBA vote. The rank and file showed up. 7th-round picks, undrafted guys. They made it. This is important to them. But consistently, a lot of the quarterbacks and a lot of the big stars who came out and whined about how this is a bad deal skipped town. Nowhere to be found. Where's Aaron Rodgers? Where's J.J. Watt? We know where Russell Wilson was. He was in Vegas watching his sister play for Stanford when the Oregon women destroyed them. He wasn't at that meeting. I think it opens up. What I said over the last 2 weeks was that I thought this CBA wouldn't pass because teams would trust their quarterbacks. Because the rank and file would say what Tom Brady wants, what Russell Wilson wants, what Aaron Rodgers wants is what I want. It's good for me. I'll get on their good side. I don't think that's going to happen anymore. And instead, what I think may happen, if Rodgers or Wilson or Watt or Drew Brees or Tom Brady don't want to play under this CBA, watch this free agent class. You don't think if Tom Brady went to the XFL and said, I want to make X amount of dollars, you don't think he would do it? What's the difference between playing for the Bucks or playing in the XFL? If you're making the same amount of money and you're making more than New England's going to pay you, I don't see a difference. Aaron Rodgers, you're not winning another Super Bowl in Green Bay. What's the difference between getting shafted, playing that 17th game, opening yourself up for injury, and playing less for more money in the XFL? I could see a big-time player doing it. We saw this in the 80s. NFL didn't pay their guys enough, so they all went to the USFL. All the big names went to the USFL, and the ones that didn't tried. Lawrence Taylor tried to go to the USFL. Bo Jackson would have gone to the USFL. It folded. But my point is that these guys have options now. They have opportunities now. And if the rank and file aren't going to support them, and they're going to foot them with a bill for a CBA they don't like, if Tom Brady's got to play a 17th game, if Aaron Rodgers has to make less money in a 17th game, I think they have options now, and I'm afraid they take them. I want to hear from you. 541-630-4792. 5 minutes left in this segment. Then I'm going to get Jake Bermonde on the show. And I want to revisit something that I talked about last night on the show. The idea that there will be a lot of people excited if the Raiders sign Marcus Mariota. Raider fans will be over the moon. I think the Raiders organization would be over the moon. If you were going to sort and rank who would be the best backup quarterback for the Raiders this year, Marcus Mariota is number one on the list. But I wonder, I'm curious with Marcus, is that the best move for him? And I talked about this on last night's show. The idea that maybe he doesn't want to be a backup. I don't have any evidence for that. But I just want to list all of the teams that I think are going to need a quarterback this year. New England might replace Brady with another starter. Andy Dalton has been rumored for a long time. I like Marcus in that spot. Tampa Bay, we know they're going to need a starter. Jameis is not coming back. Indianapolis, Andrew Luck retired 10 days before the season started. If they have a chance, I think they're going to kick the tires on another starter. Then you've got teams like Carolina, teams like the Chargers. Are the Raiders really the best fit for him? Is he really going to say, I have no other options and I'm going to be a backup to Derek Carr in Oakland? I don't know. I don't think it's likely. I think there are going to be suitors for Marcus Mariota, and I just want to prepare you for that. I've said all along, the team that scares me, the team who I think makes way too much sense for is New England. He never had an offensive line in Tennessee. He never had receivers in Tennessee, and he never had coaching. And he goes to New England, and he'll get all three. Those Patriots receivers stunk last year, but it wasn't for lack of talent. They had a lot of young guys. They had a lot of rookies who are only going to get better. They're going to grow, they're going to develop, and they're going to excel. And then you've got an offensive line that year after year is one of the best in football, and you've got the coach, the best coach in the NFL, hands down. If he goes to New England, it completely flips the script on his career. And I think he can win titles. I know Raider fans would love to see him in Vegas. I would love to see him in Vegas. I know Duck fans want to see him get back to the West Coast or at least close to it. But I think the best fit for Marcus Mariota is New England. I think the Patriots are the best fit for him. Pains me to say it. 541-630-4792. I want to hear your thoughts on it. And we'll wrap up this segment. Get you ready for Jake Bermonde. Blazers. I know it's a lost season, but I've read reports this week that Yusuf Nurkic will come back. And I just want to tell you, I think this is the dumbest decision Portland could possibly make. Let's say the best case scenario happens. Let's say Yusuf Nurkic comes back healthy, dominates, and the Blazers sneak into the playoffs as an 8 seed. Do we really believe that they can beat L.A.? Do we really believe they can hang with the Lakers or Clippers this year? You don't really believe that. Nobody believes that. There's no chance for this team. The shelf life is the first round of the playoffs. 4 games in. Then they get swept and they're out. Why bring Yusuf Nurkic back for that? Now let's think about the alternative for this team. The best case scenario is Nurk gets you an 8 seed and then you get swept. The worst case scenario is you rush Yusuf Nurkic back this week and the Bosnian Beast gets hurt again and he's out another year. And you've tanked your future, and Damian Lillard doesn't want to play for you, and there's all sorts of strife in Portland. That's what can happen. Would you rather get swept in the first round of the playoffs, or would you rather lose your big man for another year, risk another injury? I think it's possible. And with that in mind, if I'm Portland, I do not play Yusuf Nurkic. If you're fighting for a 1 seed, different story. If you're fighting for a title, different story. This team has no future. This season is lost. Don't waste Yusuf Nurkic. Keep him healthy. Keep him on the bench. Bench Dame for good measure, too. Start tanking for a draft spot and then build for next year. That's what I would do if I were the Trailblazers. I got a text coming in on the line. Quote, as it loads. This happens to me every time. I get a text message, I pop it open, and I can't see it. Takes like an eternity. Well, I'm going to address that, 541-630-4792, on the other side of the show. Jake Bermonde joining me in a minute. What does he think about Marcus Mariota's best fit? What does he think about NFL free agency coming up in a week? And what's he think about March Madness? We're airing games. Got one tonight, West Coast Conference Championship. We are airing Pac-12 games this week. We're airing some SEC as well. And then we're going to get you the tournament next week. First four, Tuesday, Wednesday. First round, Thursday, Friday. And then everything else right here on the game. Jake Bermonde breaks it all down with me next, and he's decked out in some colors. We'll talk about that next. Southern Oregon Sports Talk, presented by Medford BMW on 96.1, 580, The Game.
My name is Brandon. I am a manager of tire sales at Firestone Complete Auto Care. When you come here to get service, we're going to take care of your car. Because you take care of your car is going to take care of you.
Come in for the Firestone Complete Auto Care Epic Sales Event and save $100 when you spend $500 or more. Whatever you drive, drive a Firestone.
Valid March 12th through March 15th. The exclusions apply. Cannot be combined with other offers. Additional fees may apply where lawful. See store for details.
Hi, I'm Jay Farner, CEO of Quicken Loans. 30% of Americans who are planning home improvements of $5,000 or more will pay for those renovations with a high-interest credit card. That may not be a great idea. A better idea may be to take cash out of your home with a Quicken Loans 30-year fixed-rate mortgage. The rate today on our 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is 3.99%. APR 4.23%. Call us today at 800-QUICKEN or go to rocketmortgage.com.
Rates subject to change. Pay 2% fee to receive this discounted rate. Call for cost information and conditions. Equal housing lender. Licensed in all 50 states. NMLS number 3030.
Eating, working, living pain-free. These are a few of the things many of us take for granted. Yet for many United States military veterans, finding and affording oral health care is a challenge. Dental Lifeline Network is looking for dentists who can change this. Will you volunteer to help people like Richard, a U.S. naval veteran who suffered severe PTSD after his service? He was left homeless for a period of time, and his oral and overall health are suffering. Because of congressional limitations, the VA can't provide the dental help he needs. Through our Will You See One Vet program, we focus on helping U.S. military veterans like Richard. Now we are seeking more general dentists and specialists to donate treatment to at least one veteran with special needs. When you volunteer with DLN's program to see one vet, we handle the details so you can focus on the care. If you are a dentist or know a dentist, please share this message and help us make a difference in the life of a veteran in need. Visit willyouseeonevet.org to learn more. That's willyouseeonevet.org.
After I came home from Iraq, I could still hear the booms. Makes it hard to be a good mom.
As America's veterans face challenges, DAV is there.
I'm Naomi Mathis, Air Force veteran.
DAV helps veterans get the benefits they've earned.
Thanks to DAV, I was able to begin to heal.
With the right support, more veterans can reach victories, great and small.
My victory is being able to be here for my children.
Support more victories for veterans. Go to DAV.org.
About to be a free agent, Chris Harris Jr. What up, stud? What has it been like being a Bronco from the Peyton era through the 45 different quarterbacks? What have you learned about what makes good football teams and then what potentially makes bad football teams?
Definitely learned that it's a quarterback's league. And when we had Peyton, I mean, he drove that. I mean, he ran the show, and when he left, you could definitely see that we definitely missed him.
The Pat McAfee Show.
Mornings at 7 on 96.1, 580, The Game.
Southern Oregon Sports Talk with Matt Bagley. Talking local sports. Weekdays 4 to 6 p.m. on 96.1, 580, The Game.
Hey, everybody. Matt Bagley here with you. Southern Oregon Sports Talk presented by Medford BMW. And I hopefully get to wrap my week. I've got South Medford Utes tomorrow night. Very late up in Portland, state quarterfinal. If the Panthers win that, 7:45 p.m. over on News Media 99.5 FM, 880 AM, I get to stay in Portland through the weekend. If they lose, I got to come back Thursday morning, tail between my legs, give you a show Thursday, give you a show Friday. I don't want that. I want to be done. And I want to wrap up the week in style with Jake Bramande, who joins me normally on Thursdays. Tonight, rocking a Bruins jersey here with me on a Tuesday. How you
Switching
doing,
things
man?
up, I'm good. Excited for this week. Hopefully, South Medford girls team can go up in the state tournament and take care of business and dominate like they have the last couple months.
Yeah. You saw that team up close and personal. How do you think about them?
I mean, they're completely balanced, and from a just pure talent wise, they're just deep. I mean, Kylie Chamberlain has been leading that team for so long, and she's been great, but just up and down the entire court, whether it's Coley, whether it's Tony Coleman. I mean, they just have talent, and I think that Tom Cole's team can go up to Portland and make Medford proud.
Yeah, hoping to add some hardware this week. Jake Bramande, my guest. He's a sales guy here at 96.1, 580 The Game. I want to ask you about the Bruins jersey that you're rocking, but first, Boston related. So I know you're a big Boston sports guy. I got a text on the line, 541-630-4792. Quote, Marcus Mariota needs to go to New England. Brady will stay one more year, then it's Mariota's team. What do you think about that?
That actually isn't the craziest thing I've ever heard, especially the waiting and letting the quarterback develop and learn Belichick's system, because it's unique. It's not something that any quarterback can just throw into and learn right away. And so if he does sit for a year or two, I mean, Brady said for years he wants to play till he's 45. So if he plays for 1 or 2 more years, Mariota, he's still young, learns for a year or two and then develops. I think that's a great landing spot for him.
Do you think? Would you be happy if Marcus was a Patriot?
As a backup, yeah, for sure. As a starter, right away, this upcoming September, no, I would not be happy.
Wow. That's crazy to think about. I'm in the same boat, too. Like, I love him. I thought he was great with the Ducks, but I don't want to touch him as a starter this year.
Well, and it's just because he's following Brady. I mean, going from Brady to Mariota, no one wants to be the guy that follows the guy. You want to be the next one after. And so it's tough to follow that act after 20 years. So no matter who it is under center, if it's not Brady, it's going to be tough. But I think Mariota will find success somewhere else. I think he'll get another chance to be a starter, and if he can, put all the skills that he has together, I think he'll have a chance to compete for a job.
Yeah. All right, now I got to ask you about that jersey. Rocking the Bruins sweater right now. Have you met any hockey fans in Oregon?
Slowly developing. There's a guy at my gym that was rocking a Sharks jersey, or like a T-shirt, and so talked to him about NHL. But yeah, we got a big game tonight. The Bruins got a big game tonight against the Flyers, and so just gotta support the team in any way I can.
I ask because I don't ever like people know me. And sometimes I'll have somebody come up say, hey, I heard your voice on the radio when we're talking about football or whatever. Or Raider fan will text me. Raider fan is, adamant because they know Matt Bagley's a Raider fan.
Just a singular, like just one singular.
Well, no, just like Raider fan in general.
Got it.
Very, very widespread. Will ask me about Raider stuff because they know I love the silver and black. Hockey fan only ever tells me that they're a hockey fan if I'm wearing hockey gear. Like I have a Penguins jersey shirt, and if I bust it out, all of a sudden everybody's a hockey fan. Otherwise, I have no idea. They're like in secret, in hiding.
It's one of the best sports out there. When it comes to playoff hockey, there's really nothing better. I mean, every goal matters. It's nonstop action back and forth. It's just a great sport, but it's one of those sports where I feel like you have to have someone teach you the game in order to really love and appreciate it. Very similar to soccer.
Right.
Where if you played soccer growing up, you're going to be a fan. If you played hockey growing up, you're going to be a fan. Or if someone that you know and care about, or someone you love teaches you the game, then you're gonna really enjoy it and come to appreciate it the way that you should.
Hey, talk about a sport that gets appreciated. March Madness is coming up this time of the year. You getting excited?
Best tournament, best overall sporting event in the calendar year. It is the best.
What's your favorite March Madness memory?
Oh man, I'd have to go with the Villanova final against, I want to say it was UNC.
Right.
Where it went down to the wire, and they came in, and UNC was down 3 with like 10 seconds left, and they hit this crazy 3 to tie it that everyone forgets about, where it's a tie championship game with 3 seconds left, and then everyone remembers the buzzer beater that Villanova hit. But that entire sequence, that entire game, I had Villanova in my bracket, and it was, I needed Villanova to win the office bracket. And so not only was it great for Pennsylvania and for the overall sport, but it was good for my wallet. So I remember that fondly.
For me, there's 2 memories when I think of March. I think of the Duke Butler national championship game, because I grew up here in the Valley. I went to North Medford around the same time Kyle Singler went to South Medford. So I remember following him growing up. That was a massive game. Duke wins, Kyle Singler wins. It felt like Medford won. But I was rooting for Butler. I was rooting for that underdog story, and I will never forget that 3/4 court heave at the buzzer from Gordon Hayward.
Yeah.
And if that shot goes in, it's the greatest shot in the history of the sport.
And it was close. It went off the backboard, hit the front of the rim. It was like an inch off.
Yeah. There are alternate realities where that shot goes in. Duke is destroyed. They just dismantle the university after that shot, and the world remembers Butler forever.
Yeah, Coach K's homeless after that. If it goes in, he's just ruined.
Other memory that I love, and I want to ask you where you were for this. Virginia, UMBC. I had friends of mine that are not sports fans. I have a group chat with fraternity brothers that they could care less about sports, and they've told me that my whole life. And they were buzzing my phone like crazy when UMBC went on that run in the second half. Where were you when that game happened?
I was, if I remember correctly, I was driving for work, and I was listening on the radio and trying to find, and then I literally had to pull to the side of the road and stream it on my phone because it was like this crazy upset. But I had friends from high school that went to UMBC because growing up in Maryland, it was a public school, and so I had friends from high school that went there, and it was like there was the greatest thing that ever happened to them. But March Madness is just great. My younger brother is actually named after March Madness because my dad went to Rhode Island, and Lamar Odom took him to the Elite Eight. And as my younger brother was being born, he was cheering him on, and so my younger brother's legal middle name is Rhodes for Rhode Island. So March Madness runs in our family, and can't get enough of it.
That's amazing. Yeah, bunch of March Madness coverage coming up next week on The Game. Tuesday, Wednesday is the first 4. Thursday, Friday, first round proper. Last question for Jake Bermonde, a.k.a. Sales Guy Jake. When you think about upset bids in the tournament, is there a team you like?
I'm not sure as much of it's an upset bid, but the Big Ten this entire year, and if you really haven't paid a lot of attention to college basketball this year, it was a weird year. There wasn't really that many, top-heavy teams, but the Big Ten from start to finish was the best conference, and they are deep. They have 4 or 5 teams that can legitimately make a run at a Final Four, and so from overall, I just think the Big Ten, Iowa is a team to look out as a team that's probably going to go further.
All right. Big Ten going to be home to some upset bidders. We'll talk about that next week right here.